So good day, everybody. My name is Jason Jimenez with the Bold Saviors, making the impossible possible in business. And today I have a very dear friend who I am so happy for you all to get to know. Her name is Tinja. And Tinja, thank you for being here.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you. It's been a while, and you've recently made some changes. You're in Orlando right now. But for those people who don't necessarily know who you are and what you do, would you mind giving us a little background about that?
That is a very long story, but to put it into a soundbite, my name is Tinja Anderson. I am a financial advisor. I basically focus on business owners to grow and preserve your wealth, really identifying what risks are we mitigating, but overall just wealth preservation is the target.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. Let's start with, because the podcast is about your journey, right? And your journey is unique because of where it started.
Yeah.
And it was different from, I think, what most people would consider norm.
Very much so.
Where did it start?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my parents put me through the ringer at a very young age. So, born and bred through the consultancy. So my family runs, or used to own a, communications and strategic sales business optimization consultancy. We primarily worked in oil and gas, but, up and down the chain of command, building value propositions, go-to-market strategies. We built out their project management, school of project execution. We focused on engineering, teaching them how to manage to the contract, manage to the budget, manage to the schedule. That way we're not building out liquidated damages and variation orders within the contract or the scope of work. So really much born and bred into driving value for organizations at whatever capacity we were looking at gap analysis wise. My parents had me do my first public speech contest at 9, literally threw me to the sharks to learn how to swim at 4.5. I was competing in my first rough water swim. But as far as business development goes, I came on board with them in 2007. So really built out, my repertoire of the equivalent of my MBA. I got definitely OJT, like MBA equivalent status. I tried to figure out how to test out for my MBA once I pivoted into finance, but there's only one school that does online certification, and some of the material is a little outdated for what they're teaching now as far as some of the quadrant models and leadership styles that they're focused on in MBA curriculum right this second. However, I still think that some of the fundamental foundational principles are still more accurate. Things have turned trendy and we forget what the basics are. And I really do adhere to the mindset and philosophy that you have to master the fundamentals before you can get creative. I'm like a fangirl of Einstein. I literally have a whole book of quotable Einstein on my desk. And if you read his biography, it's fascinating. But yeah, so anyways, the fundamentals, that is an Einstein quote. And really, if you think about it, right, creativity turns into anarchy without the fundamentals. And so really just making sure that we are coming back to the basics every single day so that we can excel at whatever we do is, paramount.
Why do you think that people don't? Like, they know it, they understand it, it all starts with the fundamentals. But why do you think that it's a missing or not taken serious enough?
Fundamentals?
Yeah.
It's easy to intellectualize things. It's a completely different skill set to put something into muscle memory. So behavioral modification really comes down to the implementation of something that you've intellectualized. So you don't change unless you experience either pain or pleasure, right? So it's like when you're put under a microscope in a stressful situation, you are forced to adjust your behavior. It's the carrot or the stick philosophy.
Yeah.
However, it's like when you're trying to master the fundamentals, you're either analysis paralysis or you've intellectualized it every which way to Sunday and you just can't get out of your own way.
Did you know that you were going to be working with your mom and dad?
I tried to avoid it. I honestly, like, I'm one of the...
They know. Let me ask you that.
No, I don't think any of us really thought about working together until I became the succession plan. It was one of those that just sort of, okay, well, I guess I'm the solution. Okay, great. I should master the family philosophy. Lo and behold, my parents actually are tantamount in affecting careers in a very, very significant way for over 35, 40 years.
And they come from two different backgrounds, right?
Yeah. So my mom is a PhD in communication, a neuro-linguistic expert. Everyone always equivalents, makes the similarity or comparison of NLP, but there's zero programming because programming turns into manipulation. And so we utilize neurolinguistics to understand messaging. So like the fundamentals of sender receiver, of how your brain interprets messaging so that we can be more effective no matter who we interact with.
Yep.
So mom, powerhouse, off the charts. She built out a quadrant model. Never got it validated in the sense of like a disc because it tends to get diluted. And then the scientific side of it regardless, my dad's also a biochemist by degree. He will out-research anybody in the room. He will out-research anybody in the room. We really do adhere to the golden rule of you leave everything that you touch better than how you found it, in every capacity.
Yeah.
So he is somebody that has the patience of a saint, but also zero patience. He has zero patience for like the BS,
yeah.
right? So it's like, no, we're going to solve it. And your ego is going to get checked and we're going to find the solution and you're going to do the work. So show me the numbers.
Yeah, for sure. And so as a child, I remember watching my dad. I was watching him when he didn't realize I was watching him, but he was developing me. So what would you say would be something that you took away from mom or dad that you apply today?
So it was really interesting growing up because my dad was Mr. Mom. So my dad had 2 severe back surgeries. So I grew up watching him in pain, and like literally in a corset because of where the vertebra had disintegrated. And so he was home, he couldn't travel. And my mom was just nonstop road warrior. So like when you're a consultant back in, well, still to this day, you just work, you grind it out. Like it's 40-hour days, or, it's like literally 80-hour days, 80-hour weeks, 80 hours in 4 days. Literally my brain can't even like comprehend what we used to do. So it'd be like 20-hour days, 4 days straight, recover on the plane, do it again the next week. And so she was gone, like just busting her ass. But my dad, he definitely shaped, a lot of, the work ethic. Like you just do the work. Granted, I'm trying to rewire a lot of ingrained things where, it's just not realistic. Like we don't have to push at that level in order to achieve success. Like that is how you cultivate talent, you cultivate a team, you are the servant leader. Like they had built out a large consultancy, but they ended up selling it because of the lack of control, the lack of consistency with the engagements. And so they really just dialed into what worked for them. And that's great. But for me, like I have a calling to have a huge impact, and I want to be able to replicate myself without having to sacrifice peace. So we're in that process right now.
Yeah.
So watching him, really just imbue the principles of discipline and structure and expectation like a lot of people crumble when their parents put certain levels of expectation on them.
Yep.
And for me, it's like a dichotomy because whatever bar there is, I will exceed it. It's just a matter of like, if I'm excited about it, is it impacting people in the right way? So it's not that I can't do it, but
Do you want to do it?
do I want to do it? And is it for the right reasons?
That's right. I think there's a lot of things there's a lot to what you just said, because I think most people forget about their journey and they just move versus moving with intention. And what you just shared is that my experience is no different than I think most, even with mine. Actually, my story in some capacity is similar. I learned what I needed to learn. I learned what I didn't want from my parents. And yet at the same time, it wasn't that it was wrong. It was just, it's not me. Right. And I want to create my own path. And with that, everything they shared with us has been a gift. Right.
Yeah.
And so when did you realize, and what were the non-negotiables and or the things that saying, here is what I want my life to be. These are the characteristics of what my journey is going to be about.
Yeah.
Do you recall that moment when you realized that?
Well, so I mean, I worked alongside them for over a decade. In the last 8 years, it's funny because I was just reflecting over the weekend of just like the last 8 years, post their retirement and me moving into finance has been going from being an expert to a neophyte, right? You're literally like new, you're a novice, you are being molded to take those skill sets and apply it to a world where everybody's an expert, but you're looking for a very specific business model and you're not finding it. And so I'm genuinely having that come to Jesus moment for myself right now of like, no, you need to build it so that they will come kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's, I feel like I've been in the trenches for the last 8 years of just figuring out what works for me, figuring out what works for this world, this environment, the people I'm working with, the clients that I'm bringing on board. And really just making sure that, and it's funny, it's just practice what you preach. Like, it's really hard because it's like, I literally, when I got divorced and my parents retired and I pivoted into a new career, I was starting at baseline.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was preaching back then was you can't live somebody else's vision. You can't support somebody else's vision unless it's your vision too.
Yeah.
And I'm still to this day, like literally, no, I'm creating this. So it's now time to pivot and it's time to play with the things that are most meaningful to me. So like, that's where I'm at right now, where it's just like, no, just decide, like make a decision of who you want to be, how you want to be, and cultivate that environment.
What would you be telling your 20-year-old self today?
Oh, God bless. That's like 20 years ago. It's a long time ago. It's lifetimes ago. For my 20-year-old self,
because you have lived and experienced incredible things, not all perfect, just like any human, but and yet at the same time you've been gifted.
Thank you.
With a lot of things.
I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunities that have presented and all the lessons, good and bad, because I would not be sitting here as confident and cultivated as I am without having had those experiences. The funny part is, because I think it's funny, but it's more just, it is.
Somebody left.
I've never felt like I didn't deserve to be in the room. Like I always knew that I saw things other people didn't. And that those observations were usually accurate.
Yeah.
98% of the time they are accurate, and the 2% that they weren't is because I didn't have all the information to be able to understand the behavior.
Yeah.
So like, I'm usually correct. It's just how we utilize the information. So it's depending on the room. For my 20-year-old self, I would say learn to be patient faster. But I'm also going to say, because I'm in the learn what boundaries are your non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And then mitigate the BS as fast as humanly possible. Like, that's, I think, the biggest thing for me right now is like those lessons of like, what am I eliminating faster is like, what am I tolerating faster is very present right now.
It's really powerful because patience, as said, and I just recently made a post about this on social media about patience is a virtue, but yet it has its limitations without a plan. Mm-hmm. Right? And so what would you be telling, with all the clients that you've served and you've consulted with and you've guided, that someone's always saying, it too shall pass, right? And yet at the same time, to someone who needs it now because life or death or food on the table type of thing, what do you tell to someone like that?
As far as being patient,
Yeah.
I mean, it's more...
Because it applies to everything.
It does.
Everything and business.
Yeah. So I think for me, when I say be patient, what I'm really trying to say is don't be as reactive.
Okay.
Like, don't allow your high need to understand and control like an outcome to allow you to get emotional because you're not you're not driving the ship.
Yeah.
So like, stop talking.
Do.
So it's funny. I had a coach for a while, who I was just working through like identifying certain reactive behaviors, and we identified a behavior that we call it the fixer. I have to fix things. So we named her Heidi. like nobody asked me to fix it, but I'm going to fix it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I have to fix it because it's impacting my quality of life. So I'm going to say something because I know we can be faster, more efficient, more effective, and more cultivated as a team. We can move better as a unit. Just listen to me, right? It's just like, this isn't working because of X, Y, and Z, but nobody's paying me for my observation or my expert opinion. So Heidi, Tim the Toolman Heidi, the fixer I have to acknowledge how I got into the position where I feel the need to fix.
Yeah.
Is somebody asking for the feedback? No. Do I need to give the feedback? No. Like, I put myself in a position that I now need to acknowledge. And if it's not working through me, then I need to pivot away.
Yeah.
So we're in the understand the contract, understand the budget, understand the schedule. And if it's not working, pivot.
Yeah.
So
do you recall the first time in y'all's family business when you were given your first project?
So every single workshop. So we're notorious for our winning words workshop, where you have people, fast track talent that are nominated. We can take 8 people max for 4 days. And it's basically like you have to execute or you're no longer aligned with the strategic plan. Kind of like you commit and you execute and you excel, or you're going to see a different path for your career, right? So fast track talent, they bring in a high gain opportunity. We build it out into a business case, and then we help them present and negotiate it. So final presentations are usually actionable, return on investment, quantifiable, quantifiable, qualifiable, either internal AFE type presentations for, requests for resources to affect change internally, or go to market strategies for customer value propositions. My dad would always give me the projects, the people he didn't have patience for, because they needed a little more hand holding. And so he would focus on driving out the numbers and hitting the CSF and pain questions, the critical success factor question, what has to go right type of questions, or the pain questions, and just siloing down, the bonus CSF pain questions of what has to go right in order to mitigate X, Y, and Z, and understanding the silver bullets from both an internal goal perspective, but also your customer, what has to go right for your customer, and then your customer's customer, because that's how you're going to get to the ultimate decision maker, right? Because nobody wants to buy from procurement, they buy on discount. So if you've got a value proposition and you're expensive, you're never going to sell at procurement level. You have to get to the right buyer. Anyways, to your question of the projects, I absolutely adored, whenever I'd get a project. And we mean that in the most enduring, sentimental way, is because most of the people I worked with would either walk away with a Gorilla Handler Award. So we called our executives who supported the process 800-pound gorillas. Again, endearing term. And they would walk away with whoever utilized the Anderson-Mitterling Q&A model, the most effective to negotiate to a win-win at the back end, or a win with conditions. They go back to the drawing board and come back, but they still got a win and they handled the negotiation effectively. So either a Gorilla Handler Award or a Most Creative Award. So something that was a few of my favorite were, so a gentleman who was in charge of risk mitigation, in oil and gas, they used to use Critter, and they still might, but the Critter program used to only have the analysis of probability of risk and then severity of risk. It would forget timing. So allocating resources for the right reasons at the right time and the right amounts were difficult if you couldn't ever figure out timing.
Yep.
So then things would get fast-tracked and you'd just erode your entire budget and your timeline. So he reworked the Critter model to include probability and timing. So it became this weather forecast. So literally we built out an entire weather forecast, because that's what we're doing when we're predicting the weather. We're talking severity, probability, and time. Which
is interesting because that can correlate to so many other things.
All the things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just I used to have a phenomenal time creating visual representations and the ultimate thematic device through value proposition. So for instance with welding. So you have the measurables and the unmeasurables when you're dealing with the quality of a weld. So you can't necessarily measure everything. You have to control the environment to ensure the actual quality of the weld. And so we did it through a storybook fable, the way the gentleman, we called him the Dean of Welding. So his name was Dean, but anyways, he was the master of welding.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we built out the way he liked to present was very much like Grandpa's storytelling time, and so we built it out into a storybook.
You met him at where he was comfortable. Sounds like.
Yeah, but also taking it and making it something that was tangible.
Yeah.
And impactful and memorable. There's just been so many of those where you're impacting change on a global scale. So you're meeting and exceeding global market demands through people.
Yeah. Well, it's also, if I heard you right, you were also bringing a level of expertise and knowledge and meeting somebody at their place so that you can deliver what it was that was needed according to the project and the mission.
Yep.
And so I find that often in business in general, no matter what industry, where people are over talking and not guiding and telling versus stewarding.
Yeah. The empowerment side of leadership is lackluster. People like to control. They forget that they need to cultivate talent and allow people to excel. Like, let them create the solution and be ready to pull the trigger, because it's probably better than what you came up with.
What would you say would be some of the normal problems and issues that consistently showed up through that era of your career that you would always see as like here we go again?
Yeah. It was more personal for me, like on a personal development. People always used to tell me that I came across fake because I was bubbly and happy and enthusiastic. And so I was being like, part of the consultative culture was to be buttoned up. Like, you're in a suit, you're in a tie, you're in, the formal traditional corporate experience. So my hair had to be up. I wasn't allowed to wear any distracting jewelry. The makeup had to be, on point. It was just, and what we were doing, it was so serious, but like, I was so enthusiastic about it, which I found strange that people had such a weird reaction to the bubbliness. I don't think I've completely, I don't think I've changed at all. I think I'm very much
You're passionate. You just literally love what you do.
I had,
especially when you believe in it.
I had a senior executive, in finance, right? I hit certain milestones that allowed me to go to like the leaders retreats and whatnot. And I had one of our senior executives, at home office, that I was doing an ATV. I didn't even know who he was at the time. I just knew I knew him from like his photo in the pamphlets and the emails and all the things. And there were role changes, but he's like, cause I'm a horrible driver.
Noted.
Horrible driver. I'm not allowed to drive nice cars. But we were literally driving ATVs off-roading in Hawaii, and we're flooring it through some of these things, and so I'm just like pedal to the metal, just squealing like a crazy person, like whatever. And so my friend's over here, like, I'm asking her, do you want to drive? And she's like, no.
You got it.
And so we get off, and like, we're storytelling time, telling us about all the movies that have been filmed and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, he's like, Tinja, I think, because I told him about triathlon, when the friend I brought was a triathlon friend. And so he's like, Tinja, I think if you, like, if I ever saw you like running, like, I can imagine you just like running like ultra marathons and just like smiling and laughing and giggling the whole time, even though you're like in massive amounts of pain. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's just a trauma reaction at this point. But if I'm going to make light of it, no, like, I truly enjoy, like, I enjoy excellence. I enjoy seeing what the boundaries are and pushing past it. And I love seeing other people achieve excellence. Like, you are so much more capable. You just need to borrow some belief, because it's like, I know you know your shit. Just show me.
Yeah.
Tell me why. Like, I don't need you to question whether you know it. Tell me what you know. Like, it's just like, I am a phenomenal coach. And that was my best skill set consulting wise, was pulling people out of this, like, the FUD factor, right? The fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's like, no, you're in this role for a reason. You've been in it for a significant amount of time. And if you are new to the position, show me why. Show me why you got the job. So it's not like, for me, like, I'm going to have fun doing this. And if that is a disconnect for you, like, we're not on the same page. Like, come on, get on my level. Let's go.
Right. That's right.
Like, why are we doing this? This should be fun.
Because it really is that important.
Yes.
Why not do it? I mean,
yeah. Literally, yeah. Like, I'm going to have fun affecting change.
Yeah. Do you recall the moment where you had the most impact that you, to this day, say that was one of the highlights of my life at that era? The impact that you made on someone?
I mean, it's such
Because I know that you've shared with me in the past when we did a silent retreat, you shared with me at one point in time that you had some emotional change with certain individuals that you've talked to and you've dealt with, or at least you saw the transformation of their perspective of how they viewed either themselves or what they did.
Yeah, I don't even remember. It's funny. It's at the silent retreat that we talked. So I've trained over 2,000 top talent. And I think every single workshop, I came out of that experience a different person. I'd be so exhausted, I wouldn't know whether to laugh or cry. And so I would do both. It would be just like, okay, it was.
Because you're giving everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's straight up sleep deprivation training, and then you have to be on.
Yeah.
So, the fundamental adjustments that people would go through every single workshop was truly career and life changing, because it empowered them to have better conversations. So, I mean, for example, we would work with service techs. So the guys, literally on drilling sites, talking to company men, and we're teaching them how to negotiate with company men to upsell and cross sell, not just go do their job. Right. And one of the things that we would go through is communication styles, but we'd also go through the Rogerian model. Right. And so one of the guys came back after we went through the role play scenario, went home. He's like, came back the next day. He's like, I had the best conversation I've ever had with my wife ever. Cause he learned how to listen.
Yeah.
He learned how to listen and acknowledge. So the number one thing that people, mess up in communication is just simply the art form of acknowledgement. Typically, when I ask people, what is an acknowledgement? What's the purpose of an acknowledgement? Nobody knows how to answer. They're like, it's to show understanding. It's to acknowledge. Like, they don't know how to respond.
It's interesting because it's a really great question. And I'm actually thinking to myself, like, to me, is to be felt like you're heard.
Sure. It's part of it. So an acknowledgement does three things. It shows respect for the person, shows respect for what they have said, however they have said it, and it enables you an opportunity to position if you disagree with what's been said.
Yeah.
So if you agree, great, you have a right to align. If you disagree, you have an obligation to push back, otherwise you own it. If you are told you're expensive and you don't push back appropriately, if you don't acknowledge appropriately, you are too expensive.
Yeah.
So how do you position? How do you acknowledge that somebody feels that they're too expensive? So the art form of the acknowledgement is to level set a contentious environment so that you can get back to a dialogue.
And set it on course.
Yeah.
Put it on course. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But how do you do that? Like, fundamentally, like, what is it?
So in my head, when you say that, I'm playing tennis at that moment. Because I never hold the ball.
Okay.
I don't like to hold the ball.
You don't like to hold the ball.
No, I want to hit it back to you.
Okay.
And then me hitting it back is just having that conversation so that, in essence, we're playing a game. And so that eventually setting it up to where I'm guiding you, where I need to have you so that you could see it for yourself as a want or a need.
Sure. I mean, that is.
That's how it processes what you're saying.
Yeah. So the fundamental skill set for how to acknowledge is to articulate your genuine reaction. I hear something, I see something, I sense something, I'm confused, I'm surprised. Wow, great point. Help me understand.
Yeah.
That's,
because that data that you need is knowing how to either, okay, I see where you're at. I need you here, so I need to keep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like when you disagree with something, it's what is your genuine reaction to that? How do you feel about it? Wow, I'm surprised by that. I hadn't looked at it from that perspective, but it's important that I understand what you meant by that. Help me understand.
Yeah.
Is it this or is it this? Open clarifier question. Like, open explore is, help me understand. Clarifying, is it this or this? So we're asking close-ended questions, which get us nowhere. Yeah. So it's the open the kimono question of, like, what's behind the question?
Yep.
What did you mean by that?
Yep. To the root. Do you believe that you have to get to the root reason always? Or is it just when it's
I don't think we'll ever get to the root. I don't think any of us know ourselves well enough to really get a root cause analysis of true understanding other than what drives business. So like if we're looking at this from a transactional business standpoint, it's what is it that you need? Where do we get on the same page? How do I drive value for you? Where's the gap?
Yeah, very true.
Is it?
It doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
It really doesn't. It's like, how do I get you to where you want to be faster and more cost effective, or savings or gains?
So where did the journey pivot into finance? How did that come about? Because
it's the same skill set.
Yeah, completely.
It's the same skill set. I got divorced. Parents retired. Down cycle oil and gas. We got taken off the AVL.
AVL is
approved vendor list.
okay. Got it.
So client got bought out by a big corporation and changed the culture. So no more third party, outside contractors.
So your NSA basically expired at that time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my whole network was in oil and gas. So I had to have a come to Jesus with myself at baseline, where your whole world is basically back to base.
Yeah.
You know, I had
To reinvent yourself. Is that what I just heard?
I got to learn who I was.
Okay.
I forgot who I was.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just never even really figured that out.
Yeah.
Because there was never time to process what I was going through personally, what I was going through professionally, the impact that we were having. Like, I never had a moment to figure out who I wanted to be, but I knew I didn't want to be that, like where I was at that time. And so it comes back to, you can't live somebody else's vision.
100%.
And, the finance thing was fascinating for me because when I got recruited, I'd said no probably 20 times. I didn't want to sell insurance, okay? Lo and behold, insurance is a phenomenal vehicle for various reasons, and you have to have the right product for the right reason, and you need to understand how to utilize it correctly and fund it appropriately. So it is absolutely a solution for the right reasons, and it has 100% application for business owners in various situations, right? So I had to rationalize in my brain what problems I really wanted to solve. And so I went from solving operational and go-to-market strategies in the business sense and solving human challenges to also solving financial, operational, risk mitigation, but in the true financial services sense. So it was same fundamental skill set of robust gap analysis. But when I got recruited in, I was doing this 2-minute pitch body language boot camp. So I basically built out the advisors' pitches, and this DBA, boutique wealth management company, that reported to a big broker dealer, focused on high net worth and business owners. They focused on, key employee retention. And that was literally what I was doing before, but in a different capacity of getting the key employee to perform and impact change. And this was, how do we actually keep them?
Yeah.
So how do we fund non-qualified deferred compensation so that we're not eroding, our cash flow? How do we fund buy-sell agreements so that we can make sure that we're stabilizing the valuation of where we think the company is going to go so that we can justify a sale later on and mitigate the risk of the dismal Ds, right? It's insurance plays an important role. How we fund it is even more important. As far as the investment side, it's like growing and preserving your wealth is tantamount. If you're not utilizing compound interest at this point, you are missing the boat. Yeah, we're serving a greater purpose when we're looking at the overall quarterback. of growing and preserving wealth, not just the human factor. So the conversation changed for me from developing the talent to developing the owner.
Do you recall the day that said, okay, I'm going to dive in? Because
I just sort of did a leap of faith, to be very honest.
Yeah, because worlds.
Again, I struggle with control, right? So
never.
It's the Jesus take the wheel.
Yeah.
Again, you can control your time, your effort, and your energy, right? So at this point, I just wanted to be around people going after the same things.
Yeah.
With enthusiasm. And so that ultimately was like, okay, I like this. I want to go to school and people driving value for people.
Yeah.
And so I call it being a student of the game. Now I got to humble myself into something that's extremely complex and completely pivot. But knowing that I can out-research anybody in the room and outwork anybody. So, but ultimately, like, sales isn't about outworking anybody or, trying to get a fast one by anybody. It's truly like identify the challenge, solve the challenge in the most cost-effective and tax-efficient way.
Yep.
And so that for me was an easy yes.
You just sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
You just said something I want to highlight because, and you said it previously in your previous career, is there was something there that inspired you and you just dove in.
It's God's work.
Right? Because no one knows where we're heading.
Yeah.
No. We don't. And so ultimately all we can do is just give in.
Yeah.
As long as there's this much of inspiration, or what I would call some form of light or beacon that you could see that through in this, and if it gets bigger, keep going.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then when it doesn't serve you, then guess what?
Yep.
Let go. But you're still not the same person. You've experienced so much that eventually things will open up simply because that's just the way it works.
Yeah.
So by you diving in and experiencing that, so being in the insurance risk mitigation is, I think it's an understanding that it can be transactional if we allow it to be. But the gift that we have in being in the risk mitigation area or in just insurance period is the gift that we are there for people when they truly, truly need us. And sometimes in the worst of times, that the products and services that you actually provide are there to provide peace of mind.
Yeah.
And or at least some guidance of knowing that there was a plan.
Yeah.
So when was that through the journey of like, I'm giving faith to say I'm going to dive into it? When did you realize that?
So when I get it. It's just more the moments that are more funny to me, and it's but they're not funny at all. My trauma response, so I realized we were doing like true God's work.
Yeah.
When I had to deliver my first death benefit. So me picking up the phone, and this is not a client that I had. There was just somebody passed away, and they're like, "Can you call the wife? We need the death certificate to deliver the death benefit."
Right.
And I had this. I'm literally my first year having pivoted careers, and I'm like, I don't think I'm like the best person to do this because I'm literally going to be bubbly on this phone. And I'm just like, because that's the whole point of like getting people on the phone is to keep them on the phone, and they want to talk to people that are like, that was what worked for me to like engage who I was talking to.
Right.
Except that wasn't the type of call this was. But I also wasn't sure if the phone number that I had was going to reach directly to the bereaved wife, or widow. So it was, picking up the phone and being, "Hi, this is Tinja. blah, 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 like just like talking to the wife. We are missing some information in order for us to deliver blah, blah, blah. Oh my God. It was like one of the most like horrific experiences for me because I'm just like, that's literally not the message that she needed.
Sure.
That was not the energy she needed. That was not, but the fact that I was able to actually facilitate her having that compensation, it doesn't replace your loved one, but it does make it easier for you to figure out what steps are next. Same thing on the buy-sell side of things. Like when you have a partner pass away, being able to buy out that spouse, knowing that they're provided for it's a privilege because you safeguarded what they had built.
Because it's not about them. It's about the spouse, the children, the legacy, the things that you genuinely work so hard for. How do you think that people don't take it as, and maybe it's not the fact that they don't take it as serious.
They don't like the fire drill.
Yeah.
They don't like, this is the whole estate planning conversation of like, everybody wants to build the wealth. They don't want to talk about what happens after.
So how do you bridge the gap?
Well, so I talk a lot about premium finance, especially when you're dealing with valuable, like businesses over the 10 million in revenue mark, where we're literally like, that is a tough buyout. You are not liquid. So it's like, why not? We finance everything. We finance our car. We finance our mortgage. We finance our life. Literally, you use that credit card for everything. Why on earth? If you have the cash flow and the collateral, why would you not finance the premium of a large whole life policy when that policy has functionality, dual functionality? Has dual functionality in the sense of tax-free distributions. If you outlive this policy through the sale of your business, you get huge income distributions to offset capital gains once you get to taking distributions. And it also sets you up for success on the estate planning side because you're going to leave a giant tax bomb to your kids or charity or whatever you're wanting to leave a legacy for. It's like, yes, we are living our legacy now. So sorry. We are literally living that legacy now. Yeah. So for me, it's that's why I do what I do, and that's what's inspired the pursuit of excellence, that my podcast is literally because I get to have these conversations around people making significant impacts in, their customers' lives, creating significant legacies, and I want to be able to share those stories. I want to know what separated the good from the great. I want to know, like, insurance is just protection, but you're spending money to protect your house. You're spending money to protect your car. Why would you not protect your legacy?
It's scary, isn't it? Yeah. There was a moment where I think as an entrepreneur, first of all, I find that companies that are probably in the 100,000 to almost breaking 10 million are probably some of the entities that are the most least serviced, because especially from a living perspective. And what I have found is that once you're at the 10 million mark, you start getting into situations where people start paying attention to you. What would you tell someone who is fighting to get to that 10 million mark and that it's another world?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
So scaling is a very challenging thing. So yes, lending is absolutely crucial. Conversely, it's build wealth in the business and outside the business. You need non-correlated assets in order to buy in when the market is down. So if you're not conscious of diversifying while you're also building, it makes it very difficult to scale rapidly if you can't get the lending that you need.
Yep.
Conversely, there's plenty of private lenders out there that are negotiable. On top of it, invest in your people, invest in your processes, automate what you can. Like that we're straight up in the world of VAs and automation. The whole point of getting a business to where it's actually sellable is to be able to decentralize the owner. So you need to be able to replicate yourself through processes, documentation, and people.
So when someone's engaging you, they're not necessarily just engaging you, they're engaging your resources, your background, your history, your expertise in who Tinja is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't win unless clients win, and I literally hate to lose. So I pretty much make sure that there is a win-win.
People don't know you. You're the most competitive person out there.
When I do lose or take a knock on the chin, it's always a significant learning experience.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what the last 8 years really have been for me, is just consistent in the trenches. Like, this is how you drive excellence. This is what you don't do.
Yeah.
And this is why the world of trying to find a financial advisor is so muddy, because it is the Wild West. So when you do find somebody that you trust to tell you the truth, the ins and the outs, and not just give you an answer, like, go all in, because it's your financial future. It's your business.
Absolutely. And so your journey is now coming to a point where creating something of your own is always something very important, right?
Yes.
So what does that look like for Tinja?
I'm not allowed to say yet.
Yay.
It's
Or let me ask you this. Let me ask you a different question then. How should it be when a business is providing services within the lifestyle, risk mitigation, and insurance? What should be the pursuit of excellence in creating one? If somebody were to create one, what should it look like?
So if we're talking about creating like best in class and coming to me to support that evolution, like, first and foremost, I want to know what the vision is. I want to know what your core values are. I want to know who you're bringing along that journey with you and how you've incentivized them to do it. I want to know exactly how we're aligning the balance sheet with where you want to be and how you want to be. And if we're not spending the money in the right places, let's adjust. So as far as excellence goes, we need to define what that actually is for you and then build it.
Are you finding as far as in your career with respect to the risk mitigation and insurance, are you finding that clients, because of the current economic state that we as a country are in, we as globally are in, are forcing to be more open to new concepts and ideas?
Yes. I think I'm finding that people are betting on themselves more, which I love. They are looking for solutions, actively looking for solutions. And the old traditional way of wealth creation is obsolete.
Do you think the pandemic had to do anything with that?
I think the pandemic had a lot to do with a culture shift, yes. I think people realized what they don't want. I think they realized that you can't create excellence in silos and isolation.
Community counts.
Community counts. And that's what you've built.
Yeah. I worked very hard on that, for sure.
I love that.
Because it means you don't have to do it by yourself.
Correct.
And so, especially building a business, at the end of the day, it's never alone.
Yeah.
Although we get to choose who we bring in.
Yeah.
And so part of that ultimately for you, I think, is a matter of not only who the client is and who you serve, but it's also the perspective of who's going to help you create it and build it so that you're able to be where you need to be, which is in front of people. Mm-hmm. How do you do that? How does someone do that? And how would someone build that? Because what would you be selling an entrepreneur, a business owner, regardless if it's a startup or somebody that's been around 5-10 years, and they just feel plateaued and they need that push? because they feel stuck, what would you tell them?
I never know what to do with people that feel stuck, to be honest. I know it's part of like my premise for the pursuit of excellence is to push, like, to interview people around what their experience with pushing past plateaus was. However, it's more just what I have found is get out of your own way. Like, stop making excuses for yourself. Stop blaming other people. Stop, like, it's more a you problem than a circumstance problem. Like, if something's not lighting you up, change it. If something's not going the right way, change it. It's called pivot and play. Pivot.
I don't want to.
Then sell the business and go do something else. But, like, you can't keep whining about it. Nobody's going to listen.
That's right. Because at the end of the day, it's you. No one's going to do it, right?
No, it's a you problem.
What would you say were your life lessons for you that you'd be able to share to someone else going through the path of their own journey?
Build your strategic plan every single year. Review it quarterly. Literally, what is your mission for the year? What is the vision? What do you want to accomplish personally, professionally? I usually break it down into 5 things that I want to hit personally, 5 things I want to hit professionally, and then I build out the fun bucket. If the fun bucket doesn't exist, then I'm going to have an awful year. Like, I do things that light me up. So that is how I pursue excellence. Like, this is how I've achieved what I've achieved, is because I am pursuing things that I genuinely love. And, you know,
Would you mind sharing what those are?
Well, I will share what the process has been for me to get to that point.
Yeah.
Because I did a lot of things that I didn't love.
Oh, that's good.
Like, I spent a lot of time living other people's expectations, living other people's ideas of how to solve things, living other people's ideas around SOPs and go to market strategy. Like, no. That doesn't work for me. I am driving value. I'm not here to sell a product. I am not here to sell a service. I am here to solve a problem.
Yeah.
And however we do that is going to be different every single time. It's a different conversation, a different situation, a different person, a different path. Like, it is going to be bespoke. And that's probably why, it's literally the reason why my parents were never able to scale, is because everything is bespoke. So it's like, no, we're going to find the right solution for the right reasons that fits your circumstances. And the things that light me up truly are solving the problems, but also aligning core values. And then for me, the physicality side of, like, what do I get to pursue is because I truly value movement. Like, I'm capable of a lot of things. And so putting me in a box doesn't work for me.
No, it doesn't. There's a sense of freedom there.
Yes.
Yeah. For sure. What's one thing that you would want people to know you for, and that what you're committed to? What would you say?
Leaving everything I touch better than how I found it.
How do people get in touch with you?
I'm very Googleable. There's only one Tinja. So you can find me on Instagram, Tinja Anderson. You can find me LinkedIn, Tinja Anderson. You can find me on Facebook, Tinja Anderson. Consulting wise, I've got tinjaanderson.com. And then financial services, just message me, really easy on any of those platforms.
I appreciate you being here.
I thank you for having me.
Yeah, it really has been a blessing. And I can tell you that there's so much things that you've said that I think our audience will be able to really grasp and really be able to take away with. What would you say to wrap it up? What would be one advice that you would give to someone who is wanting something so bad, but they need, actually, you probably already said it, is get out of your own way.
No, I actually have a different answer for what you were going to ask.
Yeah, please.
Seek mentorship. Mentors will never just, like, show up. You have to identify them and pursue them. Identify the skill set that you want to develop and go hunt them down. They will make time if you ask the right questions. Go figure out who you want to go to school on and get in the room.
Would you do it? Would you just walk up to them
Yes.
Some people are
multiple. I literally, one of my premium finance guru, the gentleman that I have literally gone to school on, he was advisor of the year nationally. He gave a presentation at one of our leaders events. I saw him speak and I said, I want to learn that. So I went right up to him after, said, "Hi, my name is Tinja. I'd like to understand premium finance." And he found me on social. So we exchanged numbers, but he did the follow-up. Don't be afraid to ask for what you want.
It's hard and yet not hard.
He called me Hurricane Tinja to this day. But it was a 30-second flyby. Hi, bye. I was prepping for a consulting project while I was doing the finance retreat. So it was multitasking at its finest.
Absolutely. Don't think, just do.
Just do. Do.
Well, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us. We are the Bold Saviors, making the impossible possible in business. See you next time.